Good morning. Harish, it is day one. I think we are the first people in the content studio, so this is a very important session. I just wondered, could you give me some of your thoughts and, given it's the start of the week, what are you looking to see and what are you wanting to achieve out of this week?
Helen, thanks first of all for having this conversation so early. It's the first day of the week here in Cannes, and I think what's interesting about it is that there's you could feel it. The energy is palpable.
Yeah.
There's a tremendous amount of obviously interest. Obviously, we're here at Sport Beach, which obviously getting a lot of attention. But in general, I'd say the most interesting thing for me has been how much every time you come back. Here to Cannes, it doesn't matter how much of an effort it takes to get here. Once you're here, it's tremendously productive just in terms of the collisions that people have. You run into people that you ordinarily wouldn't run into. There's probably people that are in your orbit or your sphere that you have wanted to meet with or have wanted to meet you that just wouldn't have normally, and in the most casual ways possible, you will run into each other. And there's obviously all the formal stuff, which is which takes a lot of the precedence. So it's a lot of interaction crammed into less than 4 days.
Yeah.
So I'm ready for it.
Good, good. It's like being in the best office campus, in the best location with the best weather and the best people, isn't it?
That's it.
So, what's not to like?
What's not to like, exactly.
So you have recently started in a new role. I'm gonna check my script because I want to make sure that I've actually got the title correctly.
Right.
You're now head of publisher monetization at TikTok.
Yeah.
Now that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
What are your aims and hopes in this new role? What do you think your focus is going to be in first sort of like 60, 90, 100 plus days?
Yeah, look, I think first a little context, right?
Yeah.
I think prior to this role, I oversaw the sports and gaming vertical at TikTok, and what that meant, if you sort of turn the clock back to maybe 2019, a lot of folks probably even now, it's hard to imagine that the platform TikTok was known primarily as a lip sync and dance platform for younger audiences, and that's sort of where this all started, right? And a big focus over the last number of years had been to change sort of that content mix to actually increase the number of publishers that would take the platform seriously, see the value in terms of bringing non-UGC, so content from their world, so IP and the like, to the platform. That has now really brought us to where we are today, where effectively the vast number of publishers and creators are on the platform and are thriving in many ways. And that's sort of what brings us to this role and sort of the genesis, which is that, in many ways we want to build the right type of framework for what sets us up to help these publishers succeed in their commercial goals, right? So at the end of the day, we want to see you succeed on the platform, and we ultimately want to frankly create the mechanism through which all publishers can thrive. Right. So that's the genesis of where this came together. And the early days, I think the first step is frankly putting the framework and the foundations of this together, and then we'll have some announcements coming out of that, which will hopefully be something that we can actually share.
That would be great. But it's an incredibly creative role, isn't it? Because you're celebrating creativity.
Yeah, that's a very great way of defining it. I'd say, celebrating creativity comes up in many different forms. I'd say the primarily focus of this area will be this idea of everyone's asking the question, why do I do what I do? And how do we show that value right back to those who are contributors to the platform? This is the idea.
Interesting. So on Sport Beach, we've got a lot of athletes who are becoming phenomenal for creating content on platforms. So how do you work with them in particular, say athletes as a specialism on TikTok in terms of creating content?
It's a great question. So I look at this from the perspective of, what are the ways in which we as a platform can specifically give athletes frankly, an avenue that they wouldn't have otherwise, right?
Yeah.
So the first area I'd say is access.
Yeah.
And when you think about the biggest events that are taking place all over the world, a lot of those events have very restricted access. As fans, you're limited to what's on your ticket and how you show up.
Yeah.
I would say for an athlete, they're restricted for many reasons, right? So if you can show up as a fan, now with TikTok, you actually have the ability to show up through us.
Yeah.
And we have the ability to bring you to some of the biggest events in a way where it's very natural and endemic to what you do as a creator, right? So whether that's the Oscars from the red carpet perspective, or it's or it could be, for example, the FIFA Women's World Cup, which is something we did as recently as last year. These are all examples of ways in which you get access to these events in ways that, frankly, we wouldn't have been able to do if it wasn't for the existing relationships.
Yeah.
And so that's one, that's access. And then the second one is actually elevation. And this is all about, you're going to show up where naturally you resonate with your fan base. But there's also an opportunity for you to cross over and show up in places where you wouldn't expect to show up. Places like this.
Yes, exactly.
Right? So Cannes is a perfect example,
Yeah.
right? And I'd say we've actually seen tremendous value where we connect the dots between our brands, our brand advertisers on the platform, and their access to creators who they want to meet. These are the folks that they have seen on the app, and they see their content, and they're obsessed with what they're doing, and they don't get to meet them. And it turns out a lot of times they have a lot to actually share with one another. This is a perfect example of it. So we have a lot of creators that are present here from all walks of content that are going to be running around and are going to be actually part of our ecosystem here. And so it's great. We get to really, really give them this elevation opportunity. And the last part I would actually say is support, which is ultimately, we've got an entire team that's dedicated exclusively to determining how to get them to be successful on the platform.
It feels as though you offer intense personalization, both for the creator but also the audience. It's building that relationship, isn't it, with the audience and the consumer?
Yeah, I'd say a lot of it is, the consumer has a pretty good sense of what's interesting to them.
Yeah.
And once they signal that, we have to take that as really the opportunity for us to connect them with those creators and those publishers that are really most apropos. And I'd say that's what we do.
It's very exciting. You're going to be very busy this week, aren't you?
Yes, I think there's lots of busy people.
Yeah. So one of the things, my final question is, last year it felt like AI was the thing that was discussed.
Yeah.
Every conversation seemed to be rooted in some way in AI.
Yeah.
How do you feel things have changed since Cannes this time last year? And what do you think are the sort of primary points or topics in that field that are going to be discussed? Or what are you interested about?
Yeah, I'd sort of speak to things that are happening specifically around in our ecosystem.
Yeah.
And then you asked a more, what do I think, more of a crystal ball type question. Happy to give you my perspectives.
I'm just desperate for ideas from everybody. So whoever's got ideas, it's like, great.
You won't probably lack for ideas, I think, in this ecosystem. I'd say the baseline is that the AI itself is not something that is quote unquote new, but it's evolving very fast, right? And I'd say to the point where very recently we announced a Gen AI solution called Symphony, which is all meant to help on the creation side. So everything from, if you have an idea, you can prompt Symphony to deliver a script for you that's based on that idea. Okay. This is something we just announced as an example. In addition to that, it can actually help storyboard it for you, right? That's sort of the next step. There's ways to actually then have that turn into a multilingual option. So now you can create this. You can create 4 different languages. They say in a snap. We'll see how that plays out. But that's sort of the idea. You take that. You keep going one step further, and you say, well, what if I'm going to create content a certain way? What if I want to change my style? And well, it turns out there's ways to upgrade the post-production side as well. also through AI. So this is just an example of how it's manifesting very, very really in our world, right? And it's something that we're pretty excited about talking about it here. We'll be talking about it here at Cannes, but we've recently announced that as well.
I have to come and see it.
Absolutely.
Harish, thank you so, so much. I hope you have a fantastic week, and thank you for coming to Sport Beach.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.